How's it going, everybody? RazingHel here, and welcome back to another episode of Don't Starve Together MODlight. Today, the mod that I'm going to be looking at is called Musha. Now, this is a character mod, and while I usually don't enjoy new character mods because I generally find that they lack any sort of depth and they're just a reference to some other popular franchise, the Musha mod itself is a little bit more unique, and I was convinced eventually, about 3 weeks ago, to play it by an active member of my Discord who usually joins my games every night, called Aline. They were a really big proponent of me trying out the mod, and I'm ultimately glad that I did. It's by SunnyHolic, and basically it adds various different skills and leveling abilities to a new character called Musha. There are also new weapons, new structures, and new companions to try out as well. So let's get started. The thing most people notice straight away about Musha is the fact that she has two additional status icons here. One is for sleep and one is for mana. The mana one is not quite as much used as the sleep one, but it is important nonetheless because Musha has the ability to level, and when she levels up, she has the ability to access these different skills at different power levels, basically. So one of the areas that you'll see most of the changes to the character mod, in addition to simply looking at character level and character skills, is the tab on the left-hand side of the screen, which is called Musha. So she has her own dedicated tab now, and there are a lot of things that she can craft. I mean, if I just go scrolling through this briefly, it would be difficult for me to cover all of the new items that this adds in one go. So there are a lot of really different reimaginings of how Don't Starve could work. For example, when it comes to armor, instead of having to recraft it every time, you can simply refuel it. And you can refuel it using items such as silk. So a lot of items that could normally not be recycled in Don't Starve Together can now be recycled and used as fuel for replenishing your armor. Now, the one thing about this is the character does get quite overpowered as you progress into the game. So at the moment, this armor, the Iron Bunny helmet, not only does it allow you to see at night like that by right-clicking on it, but it also protects you for 80% damage, and it has a lot of durability, and it has insulation. So as you might imagine, when you start getting towards the later parts of the game with the Musha mod, I just feel that the character becomes insanely overpowered and really not as much fun. But during the beginning of the game, and this is the other part that people notice right away, is that Musha does half damage when she attacks mobs. So for example, if we bring a Spider Queen in here, and then we start attacking her, Musha, even at this level, she's going to do about as much damage as a character with a spear. And remember, this is with a fully leveled out piece of armor. The levels is another system that Musha has that is not commonly seen in Don't Starve. And that means that as you perform tasks such as fighting, eating food, to be able to level up your gear and to be able to level up your character. And in the process of doing so, the character's gear and the character herself gains new levels, and this allows you to become more powerful, and you can start using new abilities. For example, R for lightning. So this charges me up. Unfortunately, it caused me to equip, which was not intended, but here we go. Try to kill a spider. Some of these things are a little bit less easy to control than others. The lightning, for example, and wow, I'm just taking a beating here because I'm not paying as much attention as I should. But the lightning will cause additional damage at the cost of mana a lot of the time. In addition to lightning, you can become invisible. So by pressing G on the keyboard, Musha can hide herself at the cost of great sanity. Bosses can still see her though, so you have to be careful. But what this will allow you to do, and you can see the lightning going on over there, is you can charge yourself up once again. And now I have this poison attack on me. Fortunately, I also have a torch equipped. So we're going to try using it. Okay, well, there we go. Use the poison attack on the queen. Usually it doesn't do that much damage, really. I was hoping it would do more, but the queen was already on low health, so yeah, it's basically like the toadstool poison, and you can probably see that spider there died in it. It does cause rot damage. That's just another one of, apparently I still have lightning on, so it's going to be randomly attacking these shadow creatures here, even though I'm not insane anymore, because it's still up and about. But that's just one of various skills, you know, and you can figure out which skills that you have access to by pressing K on the keyboard. There is a lot of stuff here. I don't want to make it seem like maybe this is a little bit of an overload, and that's fair because there is really a lot of stuff that's going on in this mod. There is a lot of this shadow creature just doesn't seem to want to go away, even though I keep hitting it with lightning. Wow, how about that? Okay, now it's finally gone away. No, apparently the lightning will bring it back every time. See, I'm still learning things, and that's what's really cool about this mod. This lightning will probably bring it back in. Okay, we're going to turn the lightning off. Going to try to turn the lightning off. This is one of my biggest gripes about the mod, is I've had difficulty in the past actually being able to turn the lightning off as a skill when you're in combat. So I wish that you had a little bit more control over it. But one of the really important things that you'll notice now after getting involved in that fight is look at my tired meter. The tired meter is a little bit confusing because it has like sleep and tired in it, which to me are like two of the same things. But this is how you end up becoming a lot slower. So if we're just walking around regularly, I suppose I'm still about normal speed at the moment. But the character gets a lot slower as she gets a lot more tired. And hopefully by the end of this, I'll be able to demonstrate that. She'll also start slumping forward because she's tired. And it makes it really difficult to fight. And that's where sleep comes in being really important. And that's where some of her special items can come in as well. I think I mentioned before she can just pass out on the ground to sleep, but you can also build special items like Musha's tent, which allows her to regenerate it maybe a little bit faster, but especially it allows the tent, you know, it's a tent that can be refueled, unlike the ordinary tent, which like self-destructs after a little bit of time, after like 6 uses. So that's like the big upside to Musha's tent. And a lot of her items are somewhat similar in nature to that. They're not really that unique on their own, but they simply make the game a little bit less tedious if you're playing it as Musha, especially in the end game. So you have other items like Musha's Forge here. Now Musha's Forge allows you to level up items in addition to fighting with them. So most of the time when you want to level up an item, like let's say my Phoenix Glaive here, I can equip it and unequip it. You saw me using it before. It's currently max level. That's the reason why it seems pretty decent against the Spider Queen. When you first start out with this blade, and by the way, it starts out as a much lower blade. It's called a Broken Blade when I first built it, and it gradually upgrades Frost Phoenix, and then, no, Phoenix, and then Frost Phoenix, I think. And then maybe Iron Glaive, something like that. But in addition to leveling it up by fighting mobs, you can also stick it inside this forge, and then you can fuel the forge. You just need some fuel. I have to give myself some logs here. You can give the forge some fuel and then turn it on, and any items that you have inside it will gradually be leveled up. In addition to this, if you take the weapon out and you're a little bit impatient, you can stand next to a fueled forge that is turned on, and you can force level it by right-clicking any sort of item that would normally be able to replenish its durability. So in other words, I can usually add fuel is what it's called. So it's like fueling weapons, similar to the way that you'd fuel, for example, the Magiluminescence. Right, so you right click it and you can add more fuel. Okay, here we got Hounds. Then this gives me the opportunity to showcase another feature. This is another one of her abilities. Now I have like 90%. Okay, here's shield. And once I have shield, we can just like tank like crazy. And we're not going to take any damage from the Hound attacks while we are in this bubble, but the bubble only lasts for a limited amount of time. So as you can see now, we're no longer being protected by the shield, but it allows you to deal with quick bursts of heavy damage like what you would see from a Hound attack. Now, you might think that, oh, how absolutely overpowered, and it does. Towards the end of the game, which is what I feel this is, it does become a lot more overpowered, but I feel that up until that point, it's absolutely essential to survival because Musha would not be able to take on the Hounds by herself otherwise. By the way, Musha's tent also has a light on it you can turn on. And since it uses fuel, the light will use that fuel. But the reason it's absolutely essential is because up until that point, you are very weak. You're weaker than the weakest characters that exist in the vanilla game. And to just survive, you're going to have to make use of those abilities. And that's what makes the character a little bit more complex than usual. There are different skills here. I've demonstrated how to become a shadow. By the way, the shadow thing, I should probably do that again because I didn't quite demonstrate it as well as I could. You can hide. It's called hide. And you have to wait a little bit. She doesn't immediately become invisible, but now she is invisible. She'll be invisible to mobs. And one of the things that this allows you to do is run away from Hounds. You can walk on top of tentacles. So it gives Musha some unique abilities. Bosses can't usually be hidden from, but the other things most certainly can. A lot of regular mobs. And in addition to the charge attack that I showed you before, when you attack something in this state, and I wish there was like another mob here, you do a lot more damage to it. So it's like a sneak attack. The presentation of the skills is not the most polished because I have to keep pressing the key to keep it on the screen here if you want to look at it, which means that you pretty much have to focus on one stat at a time to actually get the information about it. But this pressing K here will bring up the active skills. And this is pretty important as well for new players because it also gives you the keyboard shortcut at the end of the level, like what we saw a bunch of these. The one that we haven't yet is music. Now I'm pressing X, and now you can see Mush is going to try to play some music, and this is going to summon in some followers as well that can also help her. If you're playing with other players, this is not nearly as important. This is more of a thing that comes in really useful if you're playing by yourself, because as I pointed out before, mobs that are a little bit, okay, so here we can see something's happening. We've got music playing, it's all dramatic and stuff, and it starts spawning these little birch nutters, and you will have these followers that stick around with you for maybe a day before they start to despawn. Maybe it's a little bit less than that. They also spawn things like light bulbs in the process, a bit similar to the reanimated skeleton when it's above the surface, as you might imagine here. The real advantage to this is the fact that it allows you to take on certain mobs that normally would be difficult to fight, especially early on. So maybe clearing out an entire area of spider dens, right? Early on in the game for Musha, when she has to hit them like 6 times, 7 times just to kill one spider, having these additional mobs help clear out a spider den can come in very invaluable. At my current level, I really don't feel the need for that because I've been playing the Musha mod on a server with a bunch of other people who frequent the Discord for about 3 weeks at this point. So this is about 3 weeks of progress that you see here with the character. Oh, and by the way, when I did play the music, it restored my sleep as well. At some point during it, it restored the sleep. So that's another way to do it. But I have a feeling this is dragging on a bit long here, and I think I've covered most of everything. There are additional items, but none of them are really quite as important as the new concepts that Musha introduced, that being the leveling system and the skill system, which I think I pretty accurately demonstrated. If I go over here back to the actual base, you can see some of Musha's other new companions. For example, here's the Beefalo. It's got an inventory in it, unlike most Beefalo, and it also doesn't lose its tame, I think. So once you've tamed it, you actually get to keep it without any sort of shenanigans going on with that. And then there's also this tree called Dall, D-A-L-L. If I recall correctly, you have to press some key to get it to work. I forget. Okay. Well, unfortunately, it conflicts with another mod that I have for it. But yeah, it's basically a tree that can kind of follow you and do a little bit of fighting. But as you can see here, it has relatively low health. So the main function of it is to grow these berry bushes, I guess, around it. Some light bulbs and some vegetables, just to keep you a little bit in the food, I suppose. That's a couple of the companions the mod introduces for her. There's just a lot of really weird stuff the mod introduces, and if you're the type of person who enjoys figuring out new stuff and just being generally surprised by random wacky stuff that can happen when you're still new to the mod, like the fact that I summoned the Musha's shadow here that I didn't even realize I had summoned, like that is what really makes the mod interesting to people like me. And it might make it interesting to you as well. So if you're looking for a really good character mod, if you have not been content with what has existed previously in terms of character mods for the game, and a lot of them can feel pretty shallow, I think the Musha mod might actually change your mind in this regard. And I think it's certainly worth taking a look at, even if you're somebody who in general dislikes character mods for Don't Starve Together. But that's going to do it for today. As always, there will be links to the mod I demonstrated in the description below this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to thank the author for taking the time to create and share it with us. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching as always, and I hope to see you next time. Oh, by the way, here's Dall. You get to see this spaced out thing. This is a thing. It is actually a thing.